right. Great to see everybody here this evening. Please be seated if you're standing. And we want to welcome those of you that are watching on the internet also tonight. Thank you for being here, and please get your pens and pencils ready. Okay. Tonight we are in the Respect Unit, a continuation that we've been in now. This is the fourth chapter 3 we're in. And Catan, last class, finished up on page 62, about a third of the way down after the first paragraph. And so we'll revisit that for just a minute and also go back to the lesson plan. But for those of you who might be joining us for the first time, this is the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program Teacher Certification Course. And this is a class for anybody desiring to be a teacher of the Peaceful Solution. And also anybody that wants to learn how to conduct themselves using the Peaceful Solution. If you want to have peace in your life, this is the way to do it right here. If you follow the proven concepts of the Peaceful Solution, you'll have peace in your life. Now, not everybody will be following the Peaceful Solution, so you'll have to learn how to deal with situations that come your way, but you will be dealing with it in a peaceful way. And you'll also learn how to have peace even when bad situations come your way. You'll learn how to deal with them and how to reconcile and so forth. So we encourage you to get involved completely in this and really pay attention. So tonight, again, we'll be starting on page 62, but not first without going to lesson plan 3, page E. Now, Catan read this, procedure number 7, explained to students that acknowledging those in authority and following instructions with a positive attitude demonstrate respect. Have students turn to page 62 and 63 in their handbooks and read the section entitled, Who's in Charge? And then have students read the scenarios aloud and take turns answering and so forth. And that's great if you're in a situation where you can do that. Classroom situation, you should do that. You should be able to have a conversation with your students, some give and take. You share a little bit here and they share a little bit, and that's how it works. But always reverting back to the Peaceful Solution and what you're taught in that. So let's go ahead and turn back over to page 62. And again, Catan left off after the first paragraph, which, just to give a brief overview of it, this is who's in charge. And it's talking about respecting authority. Now, that's something that we haven't been really taught in my generation, at least. We were not taught all the time to respect authority. We might have been taught somewhat at home and respecting your elders and so forth, yes ma'am, yes sir, and all. But then as time went on, it turned into a very rebellious time in the 60s and 70s. And it's continued on, actually, to where there's many youth these days that don't really give a hoot about showing any kind of respect towards authority or those that are quite older than them, stepping aside and letting the older person go first, and possibly even open the door for them and so forth, showing a little bit of honor to them. So this is talking about respecting authority. Now, an authority figure is anyone who is placed in a position of being in charge of your safety and well-being. Now, that might lead you to think that we're talking about a police officer or a fireman or teacher or principal at school, something like that. And that's true. They are authority figures and can be. But it's not talking about just them. In a classroom, your teacher is an authority figure, and in that particular instance, your classroom teacher would be in charge of your safety and well-being, right? consider yourself. As a teacher in training of the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, guess what? You are in charge of many people's safety and well-being, because what comes out of your mouth and what they see taking place with you, your example through your actions, you are teaching them something. And you're responsible for that teaching that you give them, whether it be great or whether it be not so great. Now, none of us are perfect, and so we are all going to make mistakes. And it doesn't matter if you're a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, a student, or you just picked up the book today or what have you, you're going to make mistakes. That's just all there is to it. And, of course, if you've been involved in the Peaceful Solution for any time at all, you know that when these mistakes are made, you are going to have some of these, what we call curveballs and pitfalls that come your way. That's unexpected, totally, completely unexpected. So you have to know how to deal with them. One of the ways in knowing how to deal with them is to practice, practice, practice. The more you practice these proven concepts in the Peaceful Solution, the more that you will be able to handle those curveballs and pitfalls when they come your way. And then when you sit back and notice, oh man, I really did terrible there, I can't believe it, and all these people saw me do this too, oh, it's unbelievable, what is the matter with me, Well, don't kick yourself too hard, Again, for those of you who've been around a little bit, you've heard this over and over again, leave yourself a little bit of room to grow. Don't kick yourself too hard, just know that you did what you did, make it right, and let's move on. That's all. And then try not to do it again. Determine in your mind. Set your mind in advance not to do whatever it was you did that you really thought about and you wouldn't have done it, So, all right, well, getting back to page 62. So anyone that's placed in a position of being charged your safety and well-being, parents, teachers are authority figures. Older brother or sister who's asked to take care of you is an authority. In addition, authority figures are coaches, school bus drivers, police, etc. And it changes according to the situation. And the important thing to remember is that an authority figure is there to guide, direct, and protect you, and they deserve your respect. Now, this is where Catan left off, if I remember correctly. And he went through this really well, and ending with, they deserve your respect. So the word deserve, look at that word, deserving, they deserve it. They didn't have to earn your respect. You met the teacher today, and they haven't earned your respect yet, done something that you thought was very honorable and respectful and so forth. And so is it okay for you to go ahead and disrespect them and shoot spit wads at them and throw things on the floor and call them names? No, not at all. They deserve your respect. And even if they disrespect you, they still deserve your respect, just as you deserve their respect. Respect is something that's deserved. It's not earned. Honor is earned. Trust is earned. These are the things that you earn, that you prove yourself in, right? Respect itself is something that you owe. People deserve it. So, now bear in mind always that an authority figure should never ask you to participate in anything that is morally incorrect. You might say, well, what is morally incorrect? That's a big word, morally incorrect. Oh, let me see. Well, let me help you out just a little bit, okay? Morally incorrect is anything that would hurt yourself, others, or property and the environment. Anything that is going to hurt somebody else or has the ability to hurt somebody else. That's morally incorrect. Morally correct is when you're doing something that is not going to hurt yourself. No risk taking. People take risks all the time and they don't believe it to be morally incorrect, but yet if you sit back and look at it, it actually is. If you're risking your life or others, an example would be jumping with a bungee cord, 300 feet down in a gully or something, whatever. It's just an example. You're taking a risk. People actually die doing that thing. So if you're encouraging someone else to do that, or you're doing it yourself, guess what? You're doing something that's morally incorrect. Now, you might not have ever thought about it as being that way. But so if an authority figure is encouraging you to participate in things like this, guess what? Morally incorrect. Now I'm going to read that again. Now, most people think that morally incorrect would be something like some type of abuse, some type of child abuse, or some type of going out and stealing, or encouraging you to fight somebody, or kick somebody, or call somebody names, or things like this, and that would be correct. But it goes deeper than that, see? So bear in mind always that an authority figure should never ask you to participate in anything that is morally incorrect. If that should occur, you must always choose to say no. You can say no. You can say no to an authority when they're trying to get you to participate in something that is morally incorrect. There's a lot of things that are morally incorrect, so it takes a lot of understanding and knowledge in getting there. So you must always choose to say no or speak to someone you trust about the situation. And in dealing with an authority, sometimes the best way might be to ask if you can get back with them on that, and then speak to someone you can trust about the whole situation so you can help get some guidance and find an answer to this, before you just jump up and say something. But there are some things that you would absolutely know the answer would be no, and get away from them quickly. You can show respect for an authority figure by being courteous and polite. Courteous and polite. So would courteous be calling the authority figure a name or talking back to the authority figure? No. Would being polite to the authority figure, if they drop something and you're able to reach it and pick it up easily, would that be polite? Yes. Would using terms like thank you and you're welcome and please and so forth with an authority, would that be polite? Yes, it would. Would it be polite to tell an authority, hey, get over here, I want to talk to you? No, it wouldn't. That's not courteous, and it's not polite in dealing with an authority figure. That's not courteous or polite in dealing with anybody. So in addition, you should follow instructions and rules set by those who are in authority. And so get this, rules are given to keep things running smoothly and keep people safe. Now, you might not like every rule, and that's okay. I don't necessarily like or every rule that's out there, but I end up liking it by doing it, by conforming to the rules that are morally correct. There's nothing wrong with the rule, don't steal. There's nothing wrong with the rule, don't throw trash on the highway. There's nothing wrong with, many rules that you could think of. And so these rules are given to keep things running smoothly and keep people safe. Those in charge are responsible for ensuring that rules and instructions are followed. Now, you might not always agree with how they do that either, but there are, police forces out there that drive around trying to find somebody breaking the rules and to point it out to them and to collect fees and so forth when they find them breaking the rules. And you might not like that, but the answer to it is, guess what? Keep the rules, right? Then you don't have to worry, for the most part, if you don't have to worry about them stopping you and giving you a ticket if you're keeping the rules. And now, are there some that will? Yes, there are. There's really not much you can do about that. I mean, it wouldn't help to be discourteous and unpolite and disrespectful to that police officer that's trying to give you a ticket that's not deserved. Would it help you? No. It might end you up you might end up in jail or something. So you might suffer more consequences for the things that you're doing. It's best to treat those that are disrespectful. It's best to treat them with respect no matter how they're treating you. And that's one of the hardest things to do. Has anybody recently had to deal with that situation? Anyone? I have. It's hard to deal with somebody that's disrespecting you and to stay calm and still show respect to them. So those in charge are responsible for ensuring that the rules and instructions are followed, and the way you choose to respond to those rules and instructions determines if you are being respectful. Does showing respect or disrespect to those in authority really matter? Well, let's read the following scenarios and find out. So you could kind of answer that in your mind and think back in your own life a little bit on that question. The question is, does showing respect or disrespect to those in authority really matter? Well, can you think about a time to where it really mattered? Think back in your own life and think about a time where it did really matter when you showed them respect. Or did it really matter when you showed disrespect? What occurred? So it does. But let's read the following scenarios and find out. We've got a few that we can look at here. So scenario number 1, Sally got permission to go to the mall. Now this is on page 62 of the respect unit. But she was given an earlier curfew than the rest of her friends. Okay, well, right there's a little situation. She felt she was being treated unfairly, so she decided to stay out later. So what's going on here, step by step? She did get permission to go to the mall, but there was a condition that went along with it. She was given an earlier curfew. So because she felt she was being unfairly treated, now let's stop right there and look back on what we've learned already in the Peaceful Solution on how you deal with negative thoughts that come your way. So she's having a negative thought. She feels like she's being treated unfairly. And what occurs? Will she let that grow? Will she let it continue and start replaying in her mind on how unfair this thing is? And start bringing up every negative thing she possibly can about it, and that her friends are going to have so much fun without her and so forth, and it's just unfair, and she deserves better than that and so forth, and just keep on? Or is she going to stop, think, consider her options, choose the right path, and continue on that? Stop, think, options, and proceed, right? This is self-control in action. So she can stop and she can look at the positives of why she was given the early curfew and realize that she's being cared for by her authority figures, which was probably her parents, but that they are responsible for her safety and well-being, so she should let them do their job, and that they know best, they've been around a while longer, and start replacing those negative thoughts with great thoughts, with cool thoughts, and understanding then how much her parents care. And she could probably start getting a warm, fuzzy feeling, that, hey, my parents really do care for me. I wonder why my friends' parents don't care for them the way my parents care for me. You can turn something around. But let's see what she did. She didn't contact her parents and ask for permission. She just went home late. Does that remind you of something? One of the sayings that used to be really big with some of the people I hung out with and myself was, it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is for permission. You ever heard that? Easier to ask forgiveness than it is permission. So she didn't ask permission. She just went home late. She got to do what she wanted to do, right? Now think about this again, in anything that has occurred in your life in the past few days even. Might be that the boss told you to go do something a certain way, and you might have thought, hey, well, I know he said to do that, but he's not here right now, and he really doesn't see what I'm looking at here, so I think I'm going to do it this way. You know, without calling, without asking, just doing it your own way. Haven't we seen some scenarios in the past shown to us that show what you can get into and what kind of harm you can cause in doing that? Everybody's been in the situation, I'm sure. Think about it now. What would you do? So anyway, she just went home late. Her parents were worried and upset by her choice to disobey them. Now, what could have occurred? First of all, did Sally respect the rule given by her parents? No. And we've already talked about why she might not have and the things that she let into her mind instead of using cool thoughts and thinking about the positives. And really, think about it for a moment. When you were, say, a teenager, for instance, and you put yourself in this situation right here, this very situation, what would you have done? You guys that are a little bit older, what would you have done? In real life, what would you have done in that situation? Would you have gone ahead and gone to the mall with your friends and said, I'll just go in late, it'll be all right, I'll take whatever's coming my way? Or would you have shown the respect that was deserved to your parents? I know most of the people I know would have gone ahead and just stayed out with their friends. We're trying to teach and learn a different way here so we have peace in our life. So we don't have the up and downs and the roller coaster in life, dealing with our making decisions based on our emotions all the time. Because that's what really was going on here. She was making a decision on her emotions. She let her emotions get carried away. It was so unfair. Her friends were going to have so much fun. So why do you think Sally's parents set a curfew in the first place? Well, just like here, answers are going to probably vary, but her parents care and watch for her safety, and they know what's best for her. It's funny because maybe her parents knew something that she did not know about one of her friends, or about where they were going, or about something taking place that very night that was probably going to be kind of a dangerous situation if she wasn't in by a certain time. Might be that they knew some of those things. Did they need to sit down and explain every little thing that was on their mind to her? No. They should be able to say, well, Sally, we want you to be in by this certain time, 9 o'clock or whatever. We want you to be in by this time. And she should be able to respect her parents and be in by that time without a problem. So because Sally, this is C on page 62, because Sally did not obey her authority, what might have occurred to her? Well, think about it for a minute. What occurred to us when we didn't obey? I know I can look back on situations where, people that I knew didn't obey their parents, didn't come in on time, and, they ended up getting sick, and their whole night and their whole day being ruined the next day, and missing something that they would have really liked to do probably. In this case, one of the suggested answers would be she could have gotten into trouble, had an accident. Her parents wouldn't have been able to help her because she stayed out late. And there's been other scenarios too that we've lived through here, that we've been through, talking about, someone going out with a group that they shouldn't have gone out with and stayed out late and so forth, and someone else going home on the other hand, and then the next day waking up to find out that their friend that went out with the group died in a car accident because they weren't playing safe. So you got to think about these things and think about the care and the worry and everything in a parent's mind when they don't know where the child is at. And why would you want to put your parents through that? And then D, on page 63, this is the last question in the scenario number 1. How could Sally have respected her parents? Well, she could have come home before curfew as instructed. And that would have been the best way to show true care and concern for her parents and for herself and for her friends too. Might sound a little corny. Maybe you might be thinking, oh man, what's the big deal? She just stayed out late. Everybody stays out late every now and then. Well, it might not be the big deal one night, but it might be the next night. Let's look at scenario number 2. And I'm saying this and going over this way in hopes that you can look at it and think about it in your own life and see where you did these things, and so that you can remember them, not to dwell on them, but to remember them so you can help other people. When other people come to you, as a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, when other people come to you, your experiences, the pluses and the minuses, they all come into play with the knowledge that you have. And you wouldn't want your students to experience some of the negative things that you've experienced, right? But you would want the best for them so they could experience all the great things that await them if they're, conducting themselves morally correct. All right, so scenario 2. The teacher asked the class to be quiet so she could speak. First thing I think of is, why would she even have had to ask them? But Tom ignored her request and continued talking to a classmate. She respectfully asked Tom again to stop talking. All right, have you ever seen this take place? I've seen it take place over and over again. I've been a party to it in my younger years, the talking and being disrespectful to a teacher, talking to a classmate, or not paying attention and just not even caring. But anyway, Tom rolled his eyes and said, yeah, sure. But then he continued to talk. So he's being very disrespectful, rolling his eyes, showing, I don't care about this. Young people, that's something to guard against, really. And saying, oh, yeah, sure, like, right. I'm going to listen to you, And he continued to talk. Well, did Tom respect his teacher? No. Why do you think the teacher asked Tom to be quiet? Well, it's pretty obvious he was talking during class. She was trying to talk to the other students, to all the students, and get something across to them, but yet he was just being distracting by talking, leaning over talking and goofing off and everything. That's distracting not only to the teacher, but to other students too. What could be the consequences for not obeying the teacher's request? Excuse me. Well, what are some of the consequences? Tom could get sent to the principal's office. He could get sent to detention. He could miss out on something special that the class was going to participate in. He might have an extra assignment that he might need to complete at the teacher's will for doing this. There's all kinds of things that could take place. It could definitely affect his grades, right? And one of the things that we're doing in school is it not to get a decent grade so that our grades can show how we're progressing. But how could respect be shown to the teacher? Well, Tom could have shown respect by obeying her request and being quiet. And he could have done that from the very beginning. So it looks like Tom might have been kind of a trouble student, because for anyone to be that disrespectful towards the teacher, it's probably not the first time they've done this, and it's probably something that's become a habit in their life. Being disrespectful, talking, laughing, rolling their eyes, making snide comments, and so forth. And so in that, he's showing disrespect to himself. He hasn't learned to respect himself. He's showing disrespect to the other students, and he's showing disrespect to the teacher and the entire school. Scenario number 3. Now, Billy's older brother, Bobby, was in charge of watching him while their aunt went to a meeting. Billy's older brother, Bobby. Bobby told Billy it was time to come in and finish his homework before supper. All right, Billy told him, now this is the younger brother, Billy told him, no way, I'm not ready to come in yet. So he's talking to his brother, and he thinks he can get by with that kind of thing. But his brother, remember, was put in charge of watching him. So now his brother is the authority. Now, most of the time, his brother might not be his authority, but it's changed this time around, and now his brother's the authority. So see how that can occur? You might be on a job somewhere, and you might have a coworker that you and that coworker are side by side all the time. He's not your boss. You have a boss. You have a supervisor or lead man, whatever you want to call it. But all of a sudden, on this particular day, the boss has to go do something, and he says, hey, you're in charge, Bobby. Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to treat that person like you always did, or are you going to, goof around, call them names, and say, no, I'm not doing that, do it yourself, or, any other type of things? Or are you going to show the respect of him being the authority, and if he asks you to do something, you do it, and you treat him just like you would have if he were your normal, everyday supervisor? So, anyway, Billy told him, no way, I'm not ready to come in yet. And did Billy show Bobby respect? Absolutely not. How do you think Billy's response made his brother feel? Well, how would you feel? How would you feel if you were the authority, whether it be your little brother talking to you or someone that worked for you or what have you? How would you feel if that person said, no way, I'm not doing that. Get out of here. I'm doing my own thing. Well, you're not getting the cooperation you need to complete whatever task it is and do things in a timely manner. It might affect, it might affect the dinner meal or who knows what all it could affect. But most time people would be either angry or disappointed or somewhat upset in some way, frustrated at the least. Now, what could some consequences be for not respecting his brother? Billy could be grounded, right? He could be given some type of task to do, some type of assignment that maybe he might not have had to do otherwise. They might get in some kind of a fight. Maybe his brother doesn't practice self-control very well either and respect, and they might get into an arguing match or a fist fight or something like that. What could Billy have done to show his brother respect? Well, of course, he should have done what he was asked to do right away, right? He should have realized that his brother was the authority today and done what his brother asked him to do, laying aside their, daily routines and so forth. So that's one of the things about familiarity, where it should breed respect. The more you know somebody, the better you know somebody, family members and so forth. You should be showing them so much respect day to day. But sometimes it doesn't quite occur that way, and people need a little bit more adjustment in that. Because when you're dealing with someone on a day-to-day basis, that's when you're really going to find out what's going on. You're really going to find out if the guy, like you meet somebody today and everything's fine, you never see him again for another month, and everything's fine again, seems like a great person. All of a sudden you start working with that person, and you're with them every day. You're really going to start finding out what's going on with them and how you react to them and so forth. And there's going to be a little tension from time to time, and you're going to have to give a little and take a little and so forth and learn how to get along. Get along in unity with keeping rules that are morally sound and morally correct. And it's the same thing in a family situation too. From day to day, you should be working together with your brothers or sisters or mother or dad and other family members in helping each other, and helping each other get past situations that might be a little bit tough, not making it worse. So we are going to go back here to LP 3 or Lesson Plan 3, page E real quick. And we're going to look at procedure number 8. Now, procedure number 8, and again, Lesson Plan 3, page E in the respect unit. Tell students that showing respect to the opposite sex is also an important aspect of positive relationships. So we're getting into a little bit different situation here. in how to show respect to maybe those that you don't deal with on a day-to-day basis, but when you do, you need to show respect, and some ideas of what a positive relationship would be here. Explain to students that part of growing up is accepting that there will be physical changes in both males and females. Respecting those of the opposite sex includes not making comments about their body or touching them inappropriately. It says to have students to turn to pages 64 and 65 in our handbooks and read the sections entitled How to Show Respect to the Opposite Sex and Straight Talk. And then tell students that disrespecting the opposite sex is called sexual harassment, and it's immoral and it's against the law. So, turning to page 64. All right, now, first of all, you need to think to yourself, we need to think about this and consider, how should we treat anybody? Should we call anybody names? No. Should we make fun of anybody's looks? No. Should we make fun of someone if they're heavy set or super skinny, or they got a big nose or big ears or big eyes or big face or big feet or whatever? Should we make fun of that? And at the same time, should we be overly concerned if we look at somebody and say, oh, wow, your face just looks so wonderful? You know, and should we be overly concerned with that and just be enthralled by that person? No. So whichever way it goes, we want to be able to show respect to everybody that we deal with. We want to conduct ourselves in a way that's morally correct in every interaction that we have, be it male, be it female. Even at this point in time, when dealing with people who don't know what they are, we still should show respect. We don't have to agree with people. I'm not saying to agree with them, but, you know, showing empathy, and we've talked about this before, empathy, showing empathy in considering, you know, what has this person been through? What are they going through now? What does their life consider, or consider what their life has been up till now? It's probably quite different than your own. Each one of us is an individual, and each one of us has such different experiences, yet along the way, many of us might have had some that are very similar also. So we want to treat everybody the same. This particular page here is talking about, the next couple pages is talking about showing respect to the opposite sex, but we wouldn't even be having this talk if we knew how to conduct ourselves with every individual, be it the opposite sex or be it the same sex that you are. If we're showing everybody respect, that should be the deal. So let's talk about it a little bit, though. Adolescence is a time of constant changes, both physically and mentally. Don't forget about it, guys. If you're my age, you know, even though it's been a long time ago, I'm sure you remember those times. Probably some times that you felt really out of whack. You didn't know what to say, what to do. You didn't know how to conduct yourself with others when they said something about the way you looked and so forth. And again, whether it be whichever gender. So adolescence is a tough time. It's a time of constant changes, both physically and mentally. Not only are you changing, but you're also beginning to notice physical changes in the opposite sex also. Suddenly, the boy or girl who you grew up with no longer looks the same. And although becoming interested in someone of the opposite sex is normal and healthy, so let's get that for a minute. It is normal and healthy. You know, I see that there are a lot of people in this room. I know that a lot of the people in this room are married or have been married, have significant others and so forth. I know that if I step out of this particular room and go into the nearest town, that when I look around and I see people, there's going to be men, there's going to be women, there's going to be children. So we know that obviously people become interested in the opposite sex, in the opposite, you know, you're male, female, female, male. Yes, there's interest there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. That's just how it works. So, although becoming interested in someone is normal and healthy if done in the right manner, in showing your interest in a morally correct way, rude comments and gestures about somebody's body are not. Now, I can't think of the last time, I really, really, really cannot think of the last time that anybody here at headquarters that's training to be a teacher of the Peaceful Solution, I really can't even think of the last time that I heard somebody make a rude comment about someone of the opposite sex. I can't even, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. I cannot even remember when that was. That's great. So we're doing great right there, you guys. Give yourself a hand. So I know, though, before I knew the Peaceful Solution, and I'm sure that it's the same with most of you folks that are here tonight, that was not always the case. So rude comments and gestures about someone's body, their face, how they look, or whatever, it is in fact very disrespectful and very degrading. In fact, it's so disrespectful and degrading that if you think about it, we haven't heard much about it lately, but I remember about 7 to 10 years ago, off in there, that there was a lot of news articles on the internet, on TV, always talking about teenage suicide. And a lot of it came from this very thing we're talking about right now, where people got on the internet and they chose to be disrespectful and degrading to somebody because of their looks, and their looks might not even have been what anybody would consider, horrible or bad or out of whack or something like that. But when you say that to somebody, you got to remember that words hurt worse than physical hits sometimes. Yeah, it hurts to get hit physically, but words cut very deep. And where you might forget getting hit, sometimes those words that are said to you are never forgotten. I remember them to this day myself, some of the harsh words that were said to me as a young child, as a teenager, some of the things that were said, well, even as an adult. And the words truly do hurt more. I think, man, why didn't they just kick me or something or hit me? That would have been so much better instead of affecting me mentally and thinking about these things all my life, reliving them from time to time when some memory comes up that shifts me back into time, into that realm, and I have to relive that thing. I haven't quite got it out of my mind. I'm sure that occurs with a lot of people. And so we have to be very considerate. We have to be very empathetic. We have to be very careful when we're saying something to or about the opposite sex. Keep that in mind. And I just want to say, again, we need to do that with everybody. But there's an extra level of care that needs to be taken when dealing with the opposite sex. That goes for women or men, girls or boys. Nobody's exempt. Each person's body is private and must be treated with respect. When young men and women make derogatory comments about each other's physical development or appearance, they are not showing respect. The physical development of each person is a part of the natural process of becoming an adult and should not be reduced to comments that make a person feel embarrassed or ashamed. Avoid any and all comments about someone's physical development and appearance. And the problem with these comments is that they can lead to an even greater form of disrespect, which is touching. This violates one's right to privacy. It is not right. It is not right for you to touch somebody of the opposite sex without considering the morally correct way, the morally correct time, and with the morally correct authority to do so. It is not right. A person's body is private. And if we all understood that, we would not have rapes. We would not have abuse. We would not have child abuse, child theft, kidnapping. We would not have any of that. We would not be touching anybody else that we didn't have the authority to touch. We would not be touching anybody that we didn't have the authority to touch. Male, female, child. In this case, we're specifically, pressing on this and saying that there needs to be that extra level of care when dealing with the opposite sex. Something that is private is off limits to anybody but the owner. So if we look down at the bottom of the page, to respect the opposite sex, okay, so here's some ways to do so. Refrain from any comments about another person's physical development or appearance. Can we do that? Think about it for a minute. Can we do that? Yeah, I think we can. Refrain from touching any part of another person's body. That includes not only, I used to train salespeople, and from time to time, we dealt with the opposite sex in selling what we sell. And occasionally, you would get a person that was touchy. They would put their hand on someone's shoulder. Oh, honey, how would you like to drive this car? Oh, well, honey, what do you think about this car? Made me want to puke. Touching somebody. There's no need for that touching. So refrain from touching any part of another person's body. And so going a step further, I see children sometimes kind of, tussling around, wrestling around, pushing each other. It's just all in fun, right? We're just having fun. He pushed me, I pushed him, no big deal. We're just having fun. Well, no, it's not fun. You know why it's not fun? Because you're doing something that's morally incorrect. You should not be touching anybody else. Did you call and ask that person's parent, hey, is it all right if I push your son? Is it all right if I push your daughter? Is it all right if I touch your son? Is it all right if I spit on your son? Is it all right if I mess his hair up? Is it all right if I call him a name? Did you call and ask about any of that? No. So you didn't get permission. You didn't have authority. You showed disrespect. I mean, how many rules did you break? And young men, I see some of y'all sitting there thinking about it. I see some of you old men thinking about it too. So think about that. Don't touch anybody. Even, the older you get. I mean, sometimes I see people going up and it's common to shake hands. We see that taking place mostly in the business world and so forth. It's pretty common. And you shake the hand and get over it real quick and make sure you had some protection and so forth. You don't know what that person was doing with their hands. A real deal. You don't know. But to come up and start hugging somebody without you being their authority, without you having permission, it's not right. Be mindful of your own gestures or body language. They can be misunderstood, especially when you think about it. We've already had a few classes. We've had a few classes on, tone of voice, facial features, body language itself, animation, what you do with your hands, all the different things people can think just by doing something like that, You don't even have to look mean. You just cross your arms. Everybody thinks you're ignoring them when you might just be cold. So, but be mindful of your own gestures and your own body language because they can be misunderstood. I really do try not to, even if I am cold, I try not to cross my arms if I'm talking to people and having a conversation because they might take it wrong. So I try to keep that in mind. And I know there's a lot of others of you that do too. I remember William talking about some of the things that he tries to keep in mind when dealing with other people that really there's nothing really wrong with, but some people might take it wrong. So he tries to adjust when dealing with those people. You know what? That's showing respect. That's showing empathy, not wondering, hey, where's that person been? What's going on through their mind? I think that they don't really like this. I'm going to try to make it better for them. There's nothing wrong with that. So you guys think about that when you're pushing or shoving or playing around, especially you young guys. It's something that you have to build up some self-control. Remember to keep the rules. Listen to your teachers. When they say stop, you stop and you realize, something that you've done. Because that touching leads to other touching. That touching leads to not caring that you're touching. It just keeps on going. Next thing you know, who knows what you're doing. You might be touching someone's vehicle and taking it for a spin without even asking them about it, or stealing their bicycle or what have you, taking their cupcakes or their cookies. I mean, no telling, okay? So it leads to a lot of things. Let's go ahead and look on over at page 65 real quick. We'll get a little bit into this page. And, we could have had some slides tonight, but I thought about this, and it's very to the point in some areas here, and I thought we just need to talk about it. And we need to think about our own experiences, and we need to think about what we are currently doing and how we currently conduct ourselves. So straight talk, that's what this is on page 65, straight talk, very straight talk. Keep the meaning of these terms in mind. Respect the opposite sex by refraining from doing the following. Okay, let's take note here. Touching. The opposite sex outside of marriage is, guess what? Off limits. Get it? Off limits. You will have so much more peace in your life if you will listen to this. Don't listen to Hollywood. Hollywood says something differently than what I'm telling you right now. They say it's okay. If you look at the Hollywood stars and the people that are all out in the news and everything, they're getting divorced from one minute to the next, jumping from one person to the next. They've got diseases. They have bankruptcies. They commit suicide. They can't find any peace in their life. You will have peace if you will listen to this. Touching the opposite sex outside of marriage is off limits. This includes resting your hands on their shoulders, rubbing against each other, touching in more private areas. Some people even feel uncomfortable with someone coming up to them and standing too close. So think about it. We all have our body puts off a certain aura or magnetic field or what have you, and when someone gets in your space. When someone gets too close to you, you know it. You're like, hey, what's going on here? You're like, back up a little bit, but some people don't realize that they get right up in people's faces. So standing too close to them, putting their arms around them, respecting a person's personal space is extremely important. Teasing, all right, this is something that, I occasionally hear. Teasing should be avoided at all times, especially if there is a sexual twist to it. No way. You need to get off that right now. There does not need to be anything like that. Teasing someone about their shape, size, height, color, how they look, the way they dress, all these things can be painful and embarrassing. You know, some people don't have money to go out and buy the latest fashion in shoes or shirts or who knows, you know, hats, or the latest fashion in anything. Some people don't have the money to do that, and it's not right for you to make fun of them just because they don't have that. Why isn't it the other way around? Why can't the person that doesn't have the fancy item make fun of you for having the fancy item? Wouldn't that be a twist? You know, think about it for a minute. Who set that precedent? Who set that rule? Who said that the one with the fancy one would make fun of the person that doesn't have it? Why can't it be the other way around? Who said it? Well, I'll tell you, you know, Hollywood said it. That's who said it. And so when you make fun of people because of that, that's all you're doing is following them, and they don't know how to do anything. So don't make fun, don't tease anyone about their shape, size, height, color, how they look, the way they dress, any of that. Others might not see the humor in it or take it as a joke. It can damage a person emotionally. Remember again, the words that hurt. The things you could say something like that to somebody about, you know, oh, you got those shoes from, you know, so-and-so place, you know. And, you know, you don't know what a person's going to think about that. They might go home and it might just rest on their head and be worrying about it all that night. They might think about it the next week sometime and think about it every time they see you. Those things take place. Think about it. Has it ever occurred to you? Think about what it does to you when someone is disrespectful to you, and then think about how, if you really want to do that to someone else, if you really want to give them that mental pain, that mental sickness, that constant thought, should they even be worrying about it? No. But you know what? Again, we're not perfect yet. So yeah, people do consider those things, and no one wants to be made fun of and embarrassed. Sexual harassment involves making crude remarks about a person's personal appearance or even touching them. Although you might think you are complimenting a person on what they look like, you might be making them feel uncomfortable and not considering their feelings. I can tell you now, that is just anybody that I've ever known in business or any other place that ever went up, any man that I've known that ever went up to a woman and said, "Wow, your hair sure does look nice today." There's ulterior motives. There ain't no, "Your hair looks nice today." You're trying to get some kind of response from that person of the opposite sex. You're trying to get some kind of smile, some kind of statement back to you that, "Oh, well, thank you. You look very nice too." It's on then. So, you know what? No, it's not right to do that. You know? "Oh, I can see you've been working out," or something. No, that stuff is right. You might think you're complimenting a person, but you know what you're really doing. I'm going to add that right there in that sentence. You know what you're really thinking. So, sexual harassment is demeaning and wrong. And we're seeing more and more today, so much more of it coming out. Now, some people are using it and you know, ruining people's lives with accusations and so forth about sexual harassment. And you know what? If they did it, they did it, you know. I guess they're going to have to take the heat for what they did. But sexual harassment is demeaning and wrong, whether you're a woman or a man, and whether you're the perpetrator or the receiver of it. There's rules in schools and businesses and laws in society that prohibit it strictly. Then the last point here is that sexual abuse is taking full advantage of another person and forcing them to have relations. This is also called rape. And it's the worst form of disrespect in anybody's life, and it must be avoided in every way. It is not right at all. It's not right to at all participate in that. So that's like the epitome of it right there. But we should think about these things and consider the way that we're talking to and addressing people, male and female alike, and consider if we want to be talked to in a demeaning manner. Consider if we want to be talked to in an embarrassing fashion in front of people and, kind of laughing along with, oh yeah, but really you're deep down inside it hurts, Let's think about those things and remember this, okay? You'll have peace in your life if you follow these rules that are morally correct in the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And you teachers, when you teach this to your students and really get it through to them and help them and encourage them to practice it on a daily basis, then you're doing the right thing too. And you're caring for the students. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you in our next class. We're going to have a special meeting here this Wednesday, so we won't be having class. But on the following Sunday, on 3/26, we'll be having class again at 5:30 p.m., and we look forward for everybody to be here. Thank you.